There is a moment most people never talk about, the one where someone looks at you and decides quietly and without asking that you are less than you actually are. And the worst part is not what they said. The worst part is how long you believed them. This video is about that moment. It is about what happens inside you when the people around you consistently fail to see who you really are. And more importantly, it is about the specific, proven way to reclaim your power without losing yourself in the process. By the time we reach the end, you will understand something that most people spend years figuring out on their own. And you will understand why the answer is not what most people expect. So, let's be honest about what being underestimated actually feels like. Because this is not a small thing. It is not just a moment of social awkwardness or misunderstanding that clears up with a conversation. When someone consistently underestimates you, a boss, a partner, a parent, a group of peers, what you feel is not just frustration. What you feel is invisible. And invisibility, when it comes from people who matter to you, produces one of the deepest forms of emotional pain humans experience. The feeling that your reality is being denied. That is the wound underneath the surface, not the practical problem of being overlooked for a promotion or dismissed in a meeting. The real wound is existential. It whispers that perhaps they are right, that perhaps the version of you that you carry around privately, the one with the ideas, the capabilities, the vision, is somehow not real. And once the whisper gets in, it begins to reshape how you move through the world. Here is what most advice gets wrong about this situation. Most people will tell you to prove yourself, work harder, speak louder, show them results. And while none of that is entirely false, it misses the most important step entirely. The one that has to come first before any external action makes a difference. But we will get to that. The core of the problem is not that others underestimate you. The core of the problem is what happens when their estimate of you starts to influence your estimate of yourself. Psychologists call this internalized perception. You take in someone else's narrative about who you are, and slowly, without realizing it, you begin to perform that narrative rather than your own. You become smaller in meetings, you preface your ideas with apologize, you stop pursuing things before you even start, because somewhere in the background a voice that sounds suspiciously like there says it is not worth trying. That is when the underestimation becomes truly dangerous, not when it lives in someone else's mind, when it moves into yours. So what do? The first and most counterintuitive step is this. You stop trying to change how they see you, and you start building an unshakable clarity about how you see yourself. Not confidence in the motivational sense, not affirmations in the mirror, not a performance of strength. Real clarity. A grounded, specific, almost ruthless understanding of what you are actually capable of, what you have actually done, and what you genuinely know. This matters because power that is borrowed from external validation is fragile. The moment the validation disappears, so does the sense of power. But power that comes from internal clarity, from knowing what you bring to the table even when no one is paying attention. That kind of power is not dependent on anyone else's perception. It cannot be taken away by someone failing to see it. And here is the thing about clarity that most people discover too late. It changes your behavior before it changes their minds. When you truly know your own value, you stop shrinking, you stop over-explaining, you stop seeking permission. And that shift in behavior, that quiet but unmistakable change in how you carry yourself, is often what finally forces the people around you to recalibrate their view of you. Not because you fought for it, but because the new reality became impossible and really impossible to ignore. Now, let us talk about the second step. Because clarity alone is not enough. You also have to learn to stop feeding the dynamic that created the problem in the first place. Being underestimated doesn't happen in a vacuum. In many cases, we unconsciously participate in it. We edge our statements, we minimize our accomplishments, we laugh off your own ideas before someone else can. We do this as a form of social protection. If we dismiss ourselves first, it hurts less when others do it. But what this behavior actually communicates to everyone in the room is that we are not sure we belong there either. The shift that needs to happen is a shift in how you communicate, not in the volume of what you say, but in the weight of it. It means finishing your sentences. It means presenting your ideas or statements, not questions. It means allowing silence to sit after you say something important, instead of rushing to fill it with qualifications. This is where something fascinating happens, and it connects directly to what we have been building toward throughout this video. And this is when you change your internal narrative and your external communication simultaneously, the people around you face a choice. They can update their perception of you, or they can resist it. And the ones who resist, the ones who double down on seeing you as small even after you have clearly outgrown that frame. Those people reveal something critical. They reveal that their underestimation of you was never really about your capabilities. It was about their need for you to stay in a particular place, to serve a particular function in their world. And that is not a problem you can solve for them. What you can do is decide how much access those people have to your energy, your time, and your interior life. This is not about hostility. It is about stewardship. You get to choose who gets the full version of you and who gets a more careful, measured version. And that choice, made consciously rather than reactively, is one of the most powerful things you can do. There is a third element, and it is the one that ties everything together. It is the concept of reference group. The people we spend the most time with define the ceiling of what we believe is normal for us. If you are consistently surrounded by people who see you as less than you are, your sense of what is possible for you shrinks to match their expectations. But when you deliberately build relationships with people who see your potential clearly, who challenge you, who expect things of you, who are not surprised when you succeed, something in you begins to rise to meet that expectation. This is not about abandoning the people in your life. It is about expanding the circle strategically. Finding mentors, peers, communities, even written voices that reflects a larger version of who you are and what you are capable of. Because the truth is, we do not build ourselves in isolation. We build ourselves in relationship. And you deserve relationships that build you up rather than quietly confirming the worst assumptions others have made for you. Now, we come back to the thing we opened with. The loop we left open at the beginning. You remember the question. Why do so many people who are underestimated never fully recover their power even after achieving real success by any external measure? Here is the answer. Because they spend so long trying to prove something to the wrong people that they never stopped to ask what they actually wanted for themselves. They confused revenge with direction. They let the underestimation become the fuel, but fuel without a destination just burns. And when the proving is done, when the promotion is earned or the goal is achieved, the validation never arrives in the form they expected because it was never really the source of the problem. They needed to feel seen. And the only person who could ever fully provide that was the one they had been ignoring the whole time, themselves. Reclaiming your power when you have been underestimated is not one moment. It is a series of quiet choices. It is the choice to know yourself clearly, to communicate that knowing without apology, to stop feeding the dynamics that diminished you, to build relationships that expand rather than contract your sense of what is possible, and above all, to stop making your wholeness dependent on the recognition of people who were never prepared to give it. You were never the problem. You were always the answer.